Imagine a land where people know what they're doing. Then they get there and realize it's just an endless cycle of pretending to understand taxes, nervously checking their bank balance and trying to remember passwords they definitely wrote down somewhere. And yet, despite their inability to handle basic technology without swearing at it, they managed to invent some of the most unnecessary problems in history. Fear the first human innovation? Once upon a time, fear was a practical tool. It kept early humans from cuddling venomous snakes or challenging a bear to a wrestling match. Sensible, logical fears. Then, as soon as humans settled down and started farming, they got creative. Suddenly, fear wasn't just about running away from predators. It was about abstract horrors like debt, social status, and whether the neighbors would judge them for wearing the same toga twice in 1 week. One of the first culprits? Money. Before it existed, life was relatively simple. You had a goat, you wanted wheat. You found someone who had wheat and wanted a goat. Sorted. Then some bright spark decided, wouldn't it be great if we all just agreed that these shiny discs had value? And just like that, humans invented a system that allowed them to starve while sitting on a pile of gold. Genius. Of course, money alone wasn't terrifying enough, so humanity upped the ante with debt, the art of owing imaginary value to other people. Suddenly you could lose your house not because of a fire or an invading army, but because of numbers on a bit of paper. Try explaining that to a caveman. No, I can't hunt mammoth today, Steve. I owe Greg some shiny rocks, so now I have to work in his field until the concept of interest rates stops ruining my life. Then, to keep things spicy, humans invented taxes, a delightful system where rulers took everyone's money and in return promised not to let everything burn to the ground. The first tax collectors were basically the original gangsters. Lovely village you've got here. Would be a shame if, I don't know, an invading army happened to wander in. Best pay up just to be safe. The beauty of it was that everyone agreed taxes were necessary, but nobody actually understood them. Ask any modern adult what they pay taxes for, and they'll confidently say things like roads and schools while secretly hoping you don't ask for specifics. But humans weren't done. They needed a way to keep track of all this imaginary wealth and imaginary debt, so they invented bureaucracy, an elaborate system where people spent entire lifetimes filling out forms to justify their own existence. You'd think bureaucracy would have been designed to make things simpler, but no. Instead, it became an elaborate obstacle course. Want to build a house? Form 27B6, signed by 4 people who don't exist. Need to own a goat? 3 permits, 2 inspections, and a week in court. Accidentally parked your chariot outside the lines? Congratulations. You now owe the government 1/3 of your annual earnings. Ancient clerks wielded their ink-stained papyrus scrolls like weapons capable of ruining entire families with a single administrative error. Forget kings and emperors. Bureaucrats were the true rulers of the world. As if imaginary money and taxes weren't enough, humans then invented laws, which were essentially just rules written on expensive paper. Some of these were practical, like don't steal your neighbor's goat. Fair enough. But then things escalated. Only people wearing this very specific hat can make decisions. If you're born on the wrong side of the river, you'll spend your life carrying bricks while someone else sits on a throne eating grapes. Basically, humans used laws to justify inequality. Before civilization, no one was rich or poor. A hunter-gatherer wouldn't have understood the concept of a billionaire. If you'd asked, who's the richest person here, they'd have looked at you like you'd just suggested that the mammoth meat was gluten-free. But then came property ownership, and suddenly people who had done absolutely nothing to earn it were born into wealth, while others spent their entire lives digging ditches. And when the poor pointed out how unfair this was, the rich shrugged and said, "Life's not fair," which conveniently was always said by the people benefiting from the unfairness. Fast forward a few thousand years and nothing has changed. Adults today still live in fear, but not of things that can actually kill them. Instead, they're terrified of losing their job, getting a tax audit, or receiving a letter from the council marked urgent. If you asked an early human what scared them, they'd say bears. Ask a modern adult and they'll say interest rates. Somewhere along the way, humanity replaced real dangers with imaginary ones, and we've never looked back. So, can we fix it? There is a faint glimmer of hope. If humans were clever enough to invent all these imaginary problems, surely they can uninvent them. Maybe one day people will wake up and realize they've been panicking over things they made up in the first place. Then again, knowing humans, they'll probably just create even worse problems instead. Because if there's one thing we're truly brilliant at, it's making life unnecessarily complicated and then complaining about it.